Welcome to Policy Connections. This episode we are pleased to have Senator Baer and Senator Rice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Today we will be talking about the Tax Commission. Last week the governor announced the formulation of a task force to study the structure and processes of the Tax Commission. So first question, Senator Baer, from your experiences sitting on local government and taxation, have you seen a systemic change in the last few years?
There have been a lot of changes in the last few years. It's very dynamic as the legislature has taken on several tax policy issues and challenges to try to improve the economy and lifestyles and opportunities in Idaho for Idahoans. With that, we've had through the recession some auditors in the tax collection arena, dust off some things that have businesses, you catch them, they're asking what's this, what's that, looking for clarity. I've seen it in recent years in the retail business and in the restaurateur business, and that's led to questions about should we have taxpayer advocacy. There are other provisions in the structure of the tax commission and how that all works equitably. And so with that, there is a lot of dialogue going on, and it has led to this type of overall assessment.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're looking forward to kind of seeing what happens with the task force. Senator Rice, what areas in the Tax Commission do you see could use some improving?
Well, it's interesting this year in the rules review process, we've come up with some situations where the Tax Commission is trying to resolve conflicts in law between statutes or what they perceive to be conflicts by rule. That's not really what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be just applying the law the way it's written. And so I think that there needs to be some improvement in their adherence to existing law, not going out writing a rule based on what legislation they may intend to ask us to take a look at. And I see some of that, and that's an area that needs improvement. Yeah, it's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, and being engaged in that process, the rules are very important, not only from the Tax Commission, but DEQ. They've become just as important as legislation. Back to you, Senator Baer. What kind of changes do you see happening in tax policy in Idaho?
Well, we, as Senator Rice just pointed out, we have to really look at the scope and the what authority lies where, and the legislature is charged with the responsibility of developing the code and the statute in regards to Idaho's tax policy. And I often get calls from constituents and from businesses, and when you drill down, the questions lie in rules. It's very important to realize that the rules really do have a responsibility of practical application of the statute. They have to have the statutory authority. It's not meant to fill in gaps and such. And often points are brought up where there needs to be clarity brought to an issue, and we do that through legislative action in the next session to clarify the meaning or the intent or the exacting definitions of terms and such. So there are complementary responsibilities, but there's checks and balances. The Tax Commission, like all our state departments and agencies, are around the year, and the legislature comes into session, and we have rule review, and that's a good checks and balance. As a matter of fact, I think it's so important, and so many things these days have direct implications to rules that I would advocate for a stringent process where if it has the implication these days as it does in many cases as law, then let's make it pass the entire legislative process in order to be enacted. Right now we do have some checks and balances, but I think with the scope, it'd be really important, it'd be a good public service to have those all very well vetted.
Yeah, you mean just over the few years that I've been engaged in this process, there's a very delicate balance between what is legislation and what is rule. I think it's become ever more important, and thus the formation of a task force. Final question, Senator Rice. Where do you see the Tax Commission in the next 2 years?
Well, I think with the this year the legislature's far more engaged in the tax rules, tax code discussion than they were last year. I think it's probably one of the highest levels, in a long time, and I think that's going to help drive things in a direction that helps put that in the right balance. I think that the commission itself, I'll be interested to see what kind of recommendations we get. There may be some structural changes that might need to be made. It could be interesting, but I think that the goal is to collect taxes, but only the ones that the legislature has passed, and only in the ways the legislature has indicated, and do it in a way that is appropriate and treats our citizens with the dignity and respect.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly an issue that we'll be paying quite a bit of attention to. As you guys know, Alex will be serving on that, so we'll be deeply engaged. Senator Rice, Senator Baird, thank you for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in.